Hello everyone, my name is Pallavi and let's start our session today for food photography composition techniques. Before getting into the details, let's look at some of the food photography facts. In last decade, what used to be a niche in photography took social media by storm, and ever since it has been one of the most favorite topics. Food photography has been the second most popular subject on photography on Instagram, and it is also one of the fastest growing and most viral category on Pinterest. According to a Boston food and lifestyle style photographer, he tells food is life. It connects all of our senses together, and it connects people, friends, and moments in that time. And the reason why I took food photography as a subject for learning composition, because I thought this can be one of the ways in which we can learn composition through the available resources at our home, and food is something which connects all of us. So without any further ado, let's look at today's agenda. So, what are the common problems which are faced by people during the food photography? We will look why composition is important, and then we will look at three ways to improve our compositions, followed by question and answers. So, you must have remembered this, or anyone in your family who made a dish and who wanted to take a picture. So, what are the common problems which are faced by you or them? First is definitely where to set up my camera, how to set up my table, how to set up my dish, and what are the dishes that I can use to place my dish food on. So these are the common problems not only faced by an individual but also a photographer. So how do we solve these? Composition can be an answer for that. What does food composition do? It guides our eyes through the photograph. It tells us what is important in the subject in relation to the rest of the photograph. Composition through flow, direction, and visual balance help the story behind your image. And it is also one of the most important components of photography or any visual art for that matter. So, whether you're learning graphic designing or you're learning anything about the visuals, composition is one of the key things to learn about. It is like something which is really subtle and really important to understand, or understand an image or the story behind the subject. So, what are the ways in which we can improve our composition? So, primarily, there are three ways which I will be discussing here to improve our composition. The first two, the first one being very basic but still a foundation to foundation in building up the photography is setting up the camera. As soon as we have the food, we think about how to set up the camera, whether we should do it at 0 degree, 45 degree, or 90 degree, or or to be more or to tell it more in the layman terms, whether we should take picture from the top or from the side or from the bottom. But before getting into that, I must emphasize here the importance of a tripod or anything which is stable to help your camera set up. And the advantage of using a tripod, whether you are using a mobile or a professional camera, is that a frame of reference is locked down, and then you can slowly build on the story for that. So, tripod, I would say, is a good investment if you are actually serious about the food photography. So, let's look at what are the best camera angles for food. Amongst photographers, the 45-degree angle shot, 90-degree angle shot, and 0 degree. And what are these? Let's understand this with the help of this image. So 90 degree is simple shot, which is shot of the food from the top of the table. 45-degree angle shot is the shot that we see from our eyes, something like that. We see food through 45-degree angle, and 0 degree angle is something which is uh, which is at the edge of the table, and we take the shot of the food. And 0 degree angle shot gives food a larger than life kind of an image. And also it is helpful when we are shooting for a dish which has layers, for example a cake, or a shot which has to be shown like larger than the life, like a drink. So it is usually done for the advertising, but other two are really popular amongst food photographers, and we will look them in detail. So, talking about the 45-degree camera angle, why it is one amongst the favorite camera angle in the photographer's world. So, as you can see in the image one, it gives a more descriptive and a natural look to the food, and it has also the better ability to use the compositional techniques. We will be exploring this point in detail in the further chapter in the as we go ahead in the slide. The third one is the advantage of depth of field. Depth of field is something which is a selected area which we can make the food sharper. For example, in image one, the maple syrup is something in focus, and it has a clear depth of field. So uh, we can use the best use of depth of field when we are using the 45-degree camera angle. Now I want you to look at the example 2 of image 2. These two shots are of the same dish but taken from different angles. The shot 2A is taken from the 90-degree angle and 2B from 45-degree angle. Though 2A gives gives us a more details of the food in terms of the shape of the food, that it clearly tells that this is shrimps. The 2B image is at 45-degree angle, but it gives some more depth in understanding what all things are there in the food. So, so this is how if we have to take this shot, I would suggest that we have to take it from both the angles. So now moving on to the second one, which is a 90-degree camera angle. A 90-degree angle for food photography is yin to 45-degree yang. That means it is one of the other popular methods apart from 45-degree angle, which is used by photographers. Why it is so unique? Because it gives a graphic and an eye-catching image, and this because as this shot is taken from the top, this adds really great interest, and also it adds a little abstract to the pictures because we don't see food usually from a 90-degree angle. So it's something like when we do a aerial photography for the nature, we see trees or we see forest or the river from a different angle altogether, and really fascinates us. So it is something like that. So here are the top three reasons why people use 90-degree camera angle. Because the first one being the ability to compose with the shapes. Here we can play around with different shapes, whether it's a prop or a food, and the shape can be your best friend in the way you think, in the way that you might think. And the second one being it also traps the viewer's eye by movement. Um, so as you can see in the below example, the first one is like you first in the first picture you see the pistachio, and again you see the honey, the honey kind of honey sack, I would say, and it actually tells you where to look through in the picture. So there is a movement. Your eyes are not constantly fixed on one angle. There is always some story that eyes are constantly building, and trying to find what is happening in this image. So 90-degree angle gives that kind of a storytelling. So moving on to the second point, these are some of the trusted techniques that can be used for compositions. The first one being lines. We can use props and food to create lines that will drive the viewer's eye straight to the subject. So lines are very popularly used to draw the viewer's attention, and it can be a horizontal and vertical as seen in the image one. It is example of it is an example where both kind of lines are used. In image two, we see the diagonal lines, which gives a little bit of action to the food, and in image 3, we see there are like three lines which are leading lines to the eyes, which tells us from what to look and where to look. The fourth one popularly uses only the use of makes the use of vertical line, and it adds more weight, I would say, and more stability to the image. So, moving on to the second part of the technique, which is the layering. So, this is layering is popularly used between 0 degree to 45-degree camera angle, and when we use layers, it really offers us the foreground, middle ground, and the background. So we can see all three things in the picture, and viewers get more information in terms of what's happening in the picture. So you can go really creative with depth of field here, like as you can see in the example two of the quail egg. Each layer add more depth to your story. So moving on to the third point, which is framing. Framing as a key ingredient is a good trick to remind a viewer what's important in the dish, especially the ingredients are mixed and not obvious. So this is a very good example. The image that you see on the left, it is a salad that we can see, but here particularly we see that figs are the one which is where is a key ingredient and which has been paid more emphasis on, because you can see two figs lying down there, and the colors and that have been chosen to highlight fig is something that can only be done with the help of this great framing. And in the second image, we see, though there are many elements here, there is a jug, there are some pistachio shells, there are some other things, but our focus is simply drawn to nothing but those round pistachios. So, framing becomes an important aspect where it reminds us of the viewer what is important in the dish. And this can actually be done in a number of ways. It can be done by, we have seen in example one, it can be done through contrast or colors. It can also be done through the help of texture, as in example two. Or this can also be done through focal points, light, or various frame, for example, rule of thirds, golden ratio, symmetry, etc., which we will be discussing in the another tutorial. So, moving on to the fourth point. Um, fourth fourth point, which says repeating patterns and shapes. They also lead to visually striking images, because our brain is constantly searching for patterns which we see in compositions, and it's a big treat to our eyes. So we can use these patterns or shape not only for the food, but we can also use it for different props, the side dishes, the dishes on which we are serving the food, and that really adds a great amount of interest to the images that we take. Moving on to the last point of the trusted techniques, composing for light. This is one of the most important topics, uh, but this will take a lot of time to go in detail to know what exactly this is. But in short, what is a composing of light? We know how the subjects. We should know how a subject or a food is reacting to the light. Food definitely, food reacts differently to light, especially like shiny surfaces and syrups and meat. We should know what what kind of texture will, or what kind of a color will, how it is going to reflect light. So uh, the the images that we see in the down uh, is a very good example. The image towards the left, we see a lamb chop, and which is looking very matte. And the right one, if you look right at the center, it has a glossy and a shiny finish. So here, as a viewer, for me, the right one is more tempting because it looks more juicy and fresh to me rather than the first one. So we should exactly know how to use the light in this case, and how to bring that little shine with the use of right angle. We can achieve that kind of a shine. So composing for light is one of the important things that really stands your picture, that stands your image out. Moving on, the third point, styling of the camera. So one of the common mistake that we all do as a beginner, we make our dish, we set up the table, we bring all the accompaniments and the side dishes, and we set up the entire table, and then we bring our camera and start to and then we start shooting. The problem is we are doing this kind of setup to please our eyes, and then we capture in our in the camera. If we have to do this in a right way, I strongly suggest that first we have to set up our camera, and then slowly we have to start with the we have to start with the idea and place the main dish and build around that main dish, take away the unnecessary details, and build a story once you have set your camera, because camera has to really see how the food looks and how everything looks here. So this with this we really end the presentation, and just a revisit to the presentation is that what we learned today. The first one is being setting up the camera, which is at 45 degree or a 90 degree or a 0 degree. And we also saw some of the trust techniques like layering, framing, lines, repeated patterns or shapes, or composing for light. And we also looked how to style according to the camera. So I would ask you, if you have to go and test this out, you can start by setting up the camera. You know the styling of the camera and the trusted techniques. Maybe pick up one and then start experimenting and start posting on the Facebook page. Mentioned, I will be mentioning my group, and there you can post, or start working on it, and then let other people comment on that, or I will also comment on that. So thank you. This is all for today's presentation, and if you have any other questions, please ask me. Okay, Akash is asking me that what about the rule of third and golden ratio and other things that photographers popularly use. I would say, and this was a very vast topic that we covered here, and knowing more about those kind of rules in depth, I will make a separate video of those and then post them on a different video. Anything Any other questions? Okay. If not, then I will end this meeting here, and then I will see you all in the next session. I will keep you posted what's going to be all about, and then looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a nice day.